Hey, how's everyone doing? Todd Nauck here. Welcome to my latest live art broadcast. Episode 12 of the live art broadcast here on YouTube, and we are continuing work on this X-Men group shot. The ins and outs of drawing a bunch of characters together. So this time we're drawing Bishop. Hopefully you've had a chance to see my previous broadcasts as we just keep adding character after character, and you saw the very first broadcast of this piece where I laid out where everyone is going and where everyone belongs. Kind of making some edits on the fly, but that's just what happens with art. You kind of have your initial idea, your initial thought, you start putting lines down, and then you start to make changes as you go because certain things need to fall into place. Pardon me. It's been a crazy holiday season, crazy work schedule, trying to get back on top of my deadlines, and I kind of caught a cold amidst all the flu stuff. So pardon me if I still have a little bit of a dry cough, but I'm not infectious, so you shouldn't worry about catching my cold that I had. So here through your viewing devices. Joke in progress right there. Actually, joke ended. So let's flip the camera around. I'll get to work on Bishop. I'll do my best to answer your questions as I go. But a lot of my focus goes into the art. So I do apologize if I don't catch everyone's question. So but I'll do my best. And usually, as if you've seen my previous broadcasts, usually there's time for a bit of a Q&A at the end where I'll try to tackle some questions I might have missed. So please do stick with that. So we'll probably spend about maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to get this piece done. So I appreciate you coming to hang out with me. And so let's flip the camera around and get to drawing. All right, readjust the rig here. Please pardon the jostling. Hope everyone's doing well. How's everybody doing? Oh, thanks for reading my Nightcrawler Homecoming trade paperback. Hopefully you'll get Reborn as well. I'd love to do more X-Men work in sometime in the future. Ah, bonsoir from France. Bonsoir to you. Hope you're having a great night. So let's see, we got Bishop right here. Let's see, you're looking for some of my current stuff? What do I have out currently? Let's see. Pardon me. Spider-Man and Deadpool issues 21 and 22. Thor, Where Walk the Frost Giants, one shot. Let's see, Deadpool Too Soon is in trade paperback. Spider-Man and Silk, Spider-Fly Effect is now in trade paperback. Of course, my two Nightcrawler trade paperbacks, which collects all 12 issues of the series I did with Chris Claremont. Let's see, what else? Spider-Man Homecoming Prelude, issues 1 and 2, that's in trade paperback as well. So, and of course, DC is now recollecting my Young Justice comics in trade, as well as my Teen Titans Go series in trade. Now, mind you, the Teen Titans Go series I did was about the adventure cartoon, the original Teen Titans cartoon from 2003. So it's not the humor comic, it's the adventure comic. So there's now two titles out there with Teen Titans Go. My title was the first one, before there was a humor comic. So let's... So I'm going to just come in here with my Unikuratoga HB lead, 0.3 lead pencil, mechanical pencil. I'm just going to tighten up some of the details here in his face before I go into the inks. Are you late to the party? Not at all, not at all. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. Just getting started. Just mentioning how I'm tightening up the details here on Bishop's face and body and costume and stuff so that before I go to the inks. I did hear that there's a Kitty Pryde movie in the works. Yes. Yes. As a huge Kitty Pryde fan, I am very excited by that news. So he's got these shoulder thingies. He's got his bandana. The collar to his shirt. Bandana. Let's see, what else do we got here? He's got a lot of bandana. We want a lot of that red here in this image. Glad to be back. Glad to be back. Hoping to get back into a more regular broadcast schedule. It just really depends on my work deadlines, and I've had a lot of work to do. But I'm taking a little time off here to come and hang out with y'all and draw some X-Men. Try to keep this this piece moving in the live art broadcast show queue. We still have a handful of X-Men to add to this, and then on to colors. I know a lot of people ask, will this be a color image? And right now I do plan on taking it to color. It will be Copic marker color. So, but that will be only after I get all the characters drawn in. You're going to be in California in March. Will I be making any appearances in Cali then? Right now, the only one I plan to be at is WonderCon in Anaheim in late March. So hopefully you can come to WonderCon. It's a really fun convention. If you haven't been to WonderCon, it's a really fun convention. It's kind of like what San Diego Comic-Con was in the 1990s. A lot of stuff, a lot of fun, but not too overly crowded. Or as crowded as San Diego has become. Not saying I don't like San Diego Comic-Con, actually. You know, it's been one of my favorites for decades here, so but it is very difficult for people to get tickets to San Diego Comic-Con, unfortunately, because it is so super popular. Pants here, the belt. Okay, so Bishop is just following. Let's see, get his hair flowing back here. All right. Any advice on drawing cityscapes and boulevards? Yeah, learn perspective drawing, which is a task unto itself. It's kind of a easier said than done. So look into learning perspective drawing, and it takes a lot of practice to start to master that. And then I like to use photo reference. So if I have to draw a boulevard or a certain cityscape, I'll search the city that I need to draw. I'll search a certain boulevard that I need to draw. And what's great is using Google Maps Street View to take you right into the street. And you can move the camera angle around, which has been very beneficial in some of the stories I've had to draw, where I can't go to France to draw a certain, where the, what's her name? The Joan of Arc statue is. An issue of Guarding the Globe took place. Now I'm using the Pigma Micron 01 here to start the inks. Very fine tip. Not the finest. I still have the 05 for an even finer tip, but this size tip works. So had to draw the Guardians at the statue of Joan of Arc. And using Google Street Maps, I was able to, Street View, I was able to move the camera view back and forth, so I could, every time my angle changed on, let's push in closer here, changed in the comic, I could adjust my street view to get the right appropriate opposite angle. So it really made drawing the comic a bit easier to keep that accuracy. So that would be my advice. Perspective drawing and reference. Let's see, will I have any new artworks for sale at WonderCon? More than likely. More than likely. Will I be attending Heroes Con in June? I'd like to. I don't know if it's going to work out. It's been a long time since I've been to Heroes Con. I'd love to get back there sometime. How long did it take me to get confident in my art? You're a beginner and you're still not feeling very confident. Well, that's understandable. If you're a beginner, you still got a bit of a road ahead of you. I don't know really when. You know what? I think actually I kind of do know when well, confidence kind of grows in degrees. Let's say it like that. It wasn't like one day all of a sudden I was confident. The confidence grows. And I've gotten to this level by years of practice, study, and more practice, trial and error, failure, and trying again. So, and I hope my confidence will continue to grow as I continue to learn more, study more, practice more, try new things. So it's really all about continued practice. The more you put into it, I believe the better chance you have to get more out of it. Everyone's results will be different because every person is different. So every artist is different. Even if you see artists have similar styles, there's still some differences. There's still each artist's own flavor, which is one thing I love about comics, is that every artist can have their own style and flavor. But to get confident, just keep practicing. That's why we artists, when y'all ask us advice, and so many of y'all get frustrated that we just keep saying practice, practice, practice. It's because it's really the truth. It is one of the biggest things. I mean, you can learn tips and tricks, but you still have to practice those things. Anything you want to get good at, to get confident at, is going to require tons and tons of practice. So it's kind of the hard truth there. But I'd say keep drawing. And one thing that really helped me in growing my confidence was when I just found a way to stop comparing my artwork to other people's art and sought to have fun in the experience. So whenever it got frustrating or I got discouraged, because every human feels that, even if you become a pro, you're still human. You're still going to have up and down days. And that's okay. It's just how do you deal with it? And I learned, have fun. Whenever I'm feeling frustrated or down or just things aren't quite going the way I want them to, take a quick little break, little 30-minute break, get a snack, check my email, and then come back with a fresh eye and an attitude of, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the process. If it's a challenging thing that I really feel like I'm not getting it to where I want it to be, I just keep at it. I got to keep at it. Maybe there will be success. Maybe there won't. It's relative. Something I might find not to be successful, someone else might really enjoy, and it's a success to them. So just relax, have fun, enjoy the process, and see what I learn coming through the other side. And then apply that to the next illustration and to the next illustration. And so it's that continual trial, error, study, learning, and most importantly, having fun. Am I looking forward to the Black Panther movie? Absolutely. How do I tackle drawing character designs concepts, especially when they're mythological creatures and no specific reference? Well, I reference other things. So say it's some sort of something that's a lot of mythical creatures are real creatures that have something different on them. Like a griffin is a lion with eagle's wings and scales and things like that. So I would reference lions, eagle's wings, and lizard scales. Reference those three things separately, and then put them together in a way that either interests me or I find to be fun to draw, or pardon me, or different. A unicorn is a horse with a horn on its head. So I'd reference horses, and I would reference horns, and then put those two things together. Sorry, gang. Sorry that the internet gagged there a little bit. Hopefully too much wasn't cut out there. So, but yeah, that's my advice on referencing how to draw or design mythical creatures, is referencing things that are close to it. Sorry about that, gang. Had to readjust some stuff here on my desk. So let Let me scroll back here, see if I might have missed a question. Do I have a favorite or prized comic in my personal collection? Well, I got some of my first appearance comics, like first appearance of Venom, first appearance of Deadpool, first appearance of Cable, all in really good condition. Those would probably be my most valuable ones, but the ones that kind of mean the most to me, like that hold a sentimental value, probably a lot of my X-Men comics from the 1980s when I was a kid and started collecting comics. Those hold a special place with me. Using a little triangle here for straight edges as I work on Bishop's Blaster here. Bishop's Blaster was the name of my high school garage band. We did covers of theme songs to Marvel cartoons. Spider-Man, Spider-Man Has Amazing Friends, Incredible Hulk, Fantastic Four. The 1960s Marvel comics cartoons. Again, another joke in progress here. I was never into GarageBand. How many high school garage bands was I in? Apparently several dozen. Good catch there. Good catch. You've been a long-time viewer of my broadcasts, apparently. Let's see. We'll put the XSE here on the badge. Have I ever run into a situation where I had to restart an entire page, or have been able to pretty much salvage any mistakes you have made during your art career? Yes and yes. There have been times where I've finished a piece and had to completely start over, just because it just didn't turn out the way it was. I caught something in it that was just too glaringly wrong. There was no salvaging it. It doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened in the past. And let's see. Oh, and there have been times where I've done it. Definitely salvaging a piece has happened. Usually, you just throw a little whiteout on there and you just keep going forward, because it's really, the main thing is all about the scanned image. And since I work in black and white line art, and then someone else colors it, I scan it in as a black and white image, so the scanner can't see the whiteout. It only sees black and it sees white and nothing in between. So yeah, whiteout is, and white paint is a saving art tool for artists. Absolutely. Will I be attending any cons in Canada this year? So far, I've only been working on my spring schedule, so I don't have any conventions in Canada this spring. But hopefully later on this year, I might be able to make it to a Canadian convention. Feel free to let your conventions know, and this goes for everyone, no matter where you are in the US or the world. If you want to see specific creators at your convention, let your convention promoter know. You can tweet that convention oftentimes and tag the creators you want them to invite, because conventions want to know who you want to see, because they want to bring you in their doors. So if you want to see me there, let them know, hey, invite Todd Nauck as a guest and his lovely wife. And they're like, oh, if enough people are asking, then they will... there's a good chance they might extend an invitation. That's how I was a guest at Salt Lake Comic Con a few years ago, as well as Denver Comic Con, was fan outcry. And that goes for any artist or writer or colorist you want to see at a convention. Let them know. Send them your wish list, or your wish list. I'd suggest the wish list, but if you have a wish list, that's totally understandable. Yeah, thanks for the kind words about my wife. She loves meeting everyone at the conventions. She loves it. I mean, she grew up. Even though she didn't grow up a comic book fan, she grew up a Star Wars fan. She had the Star Wars action figures, the Darth Vader carrying case. I mean, she is of geek culture and nerd culture. So she loves the conventions, and she loves meeting everyone, pros and fans alike. How many times do I work on drawing a character before drawing him? So yeah, I'll try to. Oh, thank you for the kind words. Let's see, get this stripe that goes down his leg here. Scroll back, see if I missed any questions. Oh, I probably missed a lot. How did you know you wanted to be a comic book artist instead of any other type of artist, or did you tumble upon it? Well, when I was younger, I didn't really want to do art for a career. I just drew because I loved to draw as a kid. And I had other career aspirations, or things I wanted to do. They weren't really career aspirations yet. They were just, when you're a kid, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That sort of mentality. Probably by junior high, I got into after-school acting program, and I wanted to be an actor. But where I was living in East Texas, there weren't a lot of acting opportunities, aside from school or after-school productions, which was fine. And I really enjoyed that, and continued that through high school as well. But when I was in 8th grade, summer before my 8th grade year, I started collecting comic books. They had stopped. Let's see. I'm from the 1980s. I'm a Stranger Things kid, so Star Wars, or Kenner had stopped making Star Wars action figures by 1984, or they started making very few of them. I was kind of phasing out of that, and I had all this disposable income, and so I started. I got intrigued by comics. I knew some kids and Boy Scouts who read comics, and just hearing about the adventures they'd talk about, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and Teen Titans and stuff, it sounded really cool. So I'd moved to a new town and didn't have a lot of friends yet. So I really didn't have many friends. I had started making a couple of friends, but we were at a Target store, and I saw a 3-pack of comics, Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars from the 1980s, issues 7, 8, and 9. So that looked really interesting. Some of the characters I recognized from Spider-Man cartoons, some characters I didn't recognize. So it's like I got intrigued, like, who are these people? And so I purchased it and read it and immediately fell in love with comics. Cut out the little subscription coupon, subscribed to Uncanny X-Men, and I was hooked. It was my new jam, and so I started drawing my favorite superheroes and Transformers, and started creating my own characters. And in 9th grade, a buddy of mine said, we were hanging out in the gym, and he's like, you create all these characters, and you read comics. Have you ever thought of making your own comic? And that had never occurred to me. So that day when I got home from school, took some printer paper, folded it in half, 4 sheets. I folded 4 sheets in half, and wrote and drew an 8-page comic in one night. And it was so much fun. I had so much fun creating this comic. I knew right then, that day, that very day, that moment, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be a comic book artist. So from there, I just started to study comics, look at how they were drawn, and just kind of taught myself. for much of it until I graduated high school and started going to comic book conventions where I could meet editors and artists and start asking questions and learning more and more and getting critiques on my work. And that was kind of how it started and progressed. So that's kind of my origin story. Many of you have probably heard that if you've been longtime viewers of my broadcasts or my other YouTube videos. I've mentioned that story quite a few times. But it's always good to repeat, especially for those that are new to my channel, new to my artwork. I want to say thank you, welcome. And for the longtime viewers, thanks for putting up with another retelling of my origin story. Try to add new bits every now and again, so there's a little new information that maybe I didn't share the previous time I shared the story. So now I got the 0.005 micron, a finer point for the finer details in Bishop's face. Put a little shadow under his eyes here, so probably when I go to color, I'll color those with pink or purple energy, like when he charges up. In case people are wondering, I often get questions like, do you use reference? I do use reference when it's a character I haven't drawn a lot before, so I've got my my Bishop Marvel Handbook illustration here, so I can get the details of his costume as accurate as possible. So do not be afraid to use reference to get the details of the character's costume right. Or anything you draw, whether it be a car or a blender or a dentist office. No one's expected to remember every detail of these things. Use reference for accuracy. Unless you've got some amazing memory powers, which there are people that do, and you can draw just everything out of from your brain with pinpoint accuracy. Do not feel bad about having to use reference. Because every pro, or at least pretty much every pro I know, uses some sort of reference depending on what it is we have to draw. Now, I've drawn Wolverine so many times I don't need reference to draw his costume. Or Spider-Man. I've drawn Spider-Man so much over the years, I can draw Spider-Man in my sleep. But when I first started drawing Spider-Man, I needed reference so I could get those webs right and things like that. Those many years ago. See, I'm not sure if I understand your question. Nemesister? You've been drawing for a long time, almost every day, and you've been reading a lot of comics and trying to notice the details, but you mean the story and character progression, etc. So I'm not quite sure what the original question was. Who am I drawing? This is Bishop. Bishop from the X-Men. I'm drawing the 1990s era X-Men on this sketch cover, and tonight is the Bishop night. All right, so I think we've just about got the details done there. Yes, Kim Jong-ji is one of those artists that can draw everything from memory. It is, with no underdrawing, I know, he is amazing. He is beyond anything. He is just absolutely amazing. Absolutely. Oh, I didn't finish the M on Bishop's eye. Yes, let's see. Just a little bit more to do there. There we go. Okay, I'm using an art gum eraser here. Probably the first video that I've used an art gum eraser. Most of the time y'all see me use my Statler Mars plastic eraser, but I just recently got a new art gum eraser here. And it's nice for erasing without making the black ink lines fade as much. So we're just going to erase just the stuff on here on Bishop. Let's see, so now that we got Bishop in there, I noticed that Kitty needs a little bump up to her line weight here, so she pops into the foreground a little bit, especially in the hair here. So you can always make your lines thicker as you go. You can't make them thinner. Well, you can with whiteout, but then things can get really messy. But it's definitely easier to make thick lines or thin lines thicker. Let's give Kitty a little line weight bump up. There we go. Just so she pops off Bishop just a little bit more. All right, so there we go. There's Bishop now on the cover. So that wraps up the art for this one. I'll flip the camera around here and do a quick Q&A to see if I can catch any questions I might have missed. So do stick around. I'm just going to flip the camera around here and we can chat here a little bit. So where's the flippy button? There it is. Oops, did I flip it? There we go. There I am. Hello, friends. Let me readjust the rig here. And there we go. Let's see. Adjust there. Apologize for that. So, were there any questions? Let me scroll back here to see if I might see anything. Was that a 005 pen? Absolutely. Have you ever worked with Riley Brown? Yes, Riley did the layouts for the first 3 chapters of Deadpool 2 Soon when we did that miniseries for Marvel's Infinite Comics. Let's see. Oh, hey, Nemesis Sister, you were asking advice for people starting out making comics. Oh, you were replying to someone. Okay, cool. Gotcha. So I just want to make sure I didn't leave you hanging. What am I doing with this piece when it's all done? It could be for sale. Potentially. We'll see. We got a long way to go here, and it might be pretty pricey. So but yeah, it all depends on once we get the colors in. Were you intimidated by your job when you first started? It was a little overwhelming, absolutely. When I got hired full-time and moved to California to work for Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios, Rob Liefeld is the guy who created Deadpool that co-founded Image. He was the one that discovered me and gave me my big break into full-time drawing comics. It was a bit overwhelming, but also really exciting. It's like, it just kind of, it was a dream come true, so it was just like exciting and fun, and it was the early days of Image Comics, and comics were selling really well still. Yeah, so it was overwhelming. Yes, absolutely. How do I get into the lottery for a commission at WonderCon? You'll want to stop by toddnauck.com. Probably here towards the end of the month, I'll have my 2018 convention info, and that will have a link to how the lottery works. You want to make sure you read up on that, read it thoroughly, read it carefully, reread it a couple of times to make sure you understand everything. And it should explain how to get a chance to get on my list, yes. Do I still have your first drawings? I have some of them, not a lot of them. As a little kid, I'd draw, they'd get thrown away, they'd be given to friends, most of them got thrown away, but I do have a few of them. I found an old notebook from when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I guess I was about 8 years old, and it's got some drawings in there that are so funny, and someday I'll post them on my social media. Maybe I'll even do a little YouTube broadcast, and we'll just go through each page. I won't say any more than that, but I did find that recently, a couple of years ago. I just have to find where I put it, and we can go through that sometime. Any advice on locking the picture from imagination in the mind while drawing? No, no. I don't really lock my picture in my mind's eye. It's a ghost image for me. It starts to take shape while I draw, and then I edit as I go. So once it starts to become concrete on the paper, that's when it's starting to lock in. I don't really lock it in up here as much. I want to have the fluidity to make changes, and as it starts to become concrete and actualized on the paper. Something I might see in my mind, once it starts to come onto the paper, might be more, I might come up with new ideas. So I want to have that freedom and that flexibility and that fluidity to be open to whatever option might take the artwork to another level. Let's see. Have I ever had to turn down work because I wasn't comfortable with the content? Most of the stuff I do that I've done professionally has been for Marvel or DC, and that stuff doesn't get to a point where I feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's pretty much classic superhero comics, which is my jam. Let's see. There's an argument about drawing from life before learning to bend the rules. People debate that you don't necessarily need to learn the rules. What's your stand on the argument? Well, I'm not. I haven't been a part of that argument. I haven't heard that argument, so I can't really speak to a lot of that. Every artist is different, and every artist has their own journey. I think there are rules that we need to learn. I also think there are things that we can kind of think out of the box right out of the gate. So I'd love to hear more about that. I'd love to see the hard data on that argument before I rendered any opinion on that specific argument. But I say draw. Have fun, people. Just draw. Put lines down on paper is critical. That's most crucial. Put lines down on paper no matter what. Figure it out as you go. Because that's what I did. That's what I did from age 3 to present. So pretty much my entire life. Did I work on What If books with Rob Liefeld, and which ones? No. When Rob hired me, he had already left Marvel. He had started Image Comics. So I came in and I drew the Bad Rock and Company miniseries, and then I took over Newman when Jeff Matsuda left to pursue other opportunities. So those were the two big series I was known for, working for Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios. Did I read the Transformers New Avengers crossover from 2007? I can't remember if I did or not. I think I at least got the first issue. Have I ever worked with Jim Lee? No, I have not. But I've been a big fan of his work since I first discovered it in Classic X-Men all those years ago when I was a teenager. Let's see, do I have an advice on detail? You have many pieces that you feel lack detail, and of course you want to overdo it. Don't want to overdo it. What kind of detail are you referring to? Because detail could be all sorts of things. Is it rendering, cross-hatching, little tick marks, or is it objects? Detail of zippers, seams, laces on costumes, belts, buckles, buckle holes, those sorts of things. So it's trial and error. That's the thing I say. You learn from experience. Like Yoda says, the greatest teacher is failure, because you learn from that. So you do an illustration and try adding more detail to it, and whatever kind of details you want to put onto it. And then if it doesn't look right, study it. Look, where did it go wrong? Make notes on it, because you're probably going to hate the piece anyway and probably going to end up toss it. Just make notes. This didn't work. This didn't work. This did work. Remember, and then when you move into your next drawing, you'll have learned from that previous drawing. It might be a small lesson, but those small lessons accrue and can become bigger knowledge over time. So that's what I would say when it comes to applying more detail to your comics. I skipped your question again. Well, Josh, it was not intentional. I have a lot of questions coming in, so it's hard to keep up with all of them. So please do feel free to repost. Hopefully I'll get a chance. And as I said at the top of the show, I'm not able to answer everyone's questions, but I do my best to catch. I keep wanting to say capture. Capture them too. I'll capture them and read them and do my best to answer them if I can. What projects am I currently working on? I can't say. I can't say. I've got a few projects that I'm working on. Some comics, some covers, and I'm not allowed to say anything because the publishers haven't announced them yet. So stay tuned to all my social media. As soon as my publishers say, here's the book coming out and Todd Nauck's drawing it, then I will be able to tell you, yes, I am drawing that, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait for you to read it. So I got a lot of fun stuff for 2018, and I can't wait to talk about it. I'm just not allowed to. Non-disclosure agreements and whatnot. Are there principles that you can follow when adding detail? Yes, yeah. You know, like when you draw a sphere and you shade it, you're considering light source. Light coming this way, shadow following this way, reflected light over here, you know, things like that. So you can use those as guidelines in how to add your details if you're talking about rendering and cross-hatching, things like that. That's important, and to show the shape and form of that object, whether it be a muscle or an article of clothing or a rock or a tree or, you know, a bird or whatever it is. So yeah, there are things like that. Let's see. Are you a fan of James Stokoe? Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with James's work, so I'd love to check it out sometime. How about a video of my setup, drawing table, desk, etc.? Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Can't really show much more than this right now. You have a lot of questions you want to ask but never got to at Long Beach Comic Con because I was drawing. Can you bug me with questions at WonderCon? Gang, y'all are more than welcome to come and ask me questions at any of my convention appearances. I'll do my best to answer. Again, I can't promise I can answer every question, but you're more than welcome to come and spend some time and chat. And I'll chat with as many people as I can. And yeah, so yeah, you're more than welcome to ask me some questions at convention appearances. Please do. Any possibility of seeing a 80s Thundercats on a Post-it note sketch? And She-Ra and Hordak separately, Post-it note sketch videos. Always a possibility, just no plans at this time. So when it comes to Post-it note sketches, I don't even know oftentimes what I'm going to do. It's usually in that spur of the moment when it's like, okay, let's draw a Post-it note sketch. Who do I want to draw? Boom. And, you know, so I might end up doing a theme thing like Masters of the Universe. I did, 10 different characters late last year. And so you just never know. What photo editing software do you use? I don't really use photo editing software. Yeah, I mean, if I have to edit a photo, then maybe in Photoshop, but I don't do a lot of photo editing. I'm really a comic book artist. That is like my main job, that's my jam. It's what I do. So I don't really do photography. But I love photography. What comic book boards do you use for your illustrations? I use Strathmore comic book artboard. I use the blank ones because I print my pencils onto my artboard for inks in Blue Line. But Strathmore also sells 11x17 pre-ruled with all the registration and crop marks artboard that you can buy. Just search Strathmore comic book artboard and you'll find it. You want the 11x17 version. Do I like working full script or the Marvel way? Great question. I like working both ways. Because I have worked both ways with many different writers. And working full script is great because you know exactly what the dialogue is. You can have the characters emote appropriately, and you can leave room for, you know, exactly what the word balloons are to leave room for in the panels. Working the Marvel way, like I did with Deadpool Too Soon, can be and on Nightcrawler as well with Chris Claremont, can be crazy fun because you get to infuse more of your own storytelling sensibilities. You get a hand in telling the story. You get to do more problem solving, which can be a lot of fun. I got to do some really fun stuff with working with Chris Claremont on Nightcrawler and Joshua Korn on Deadpool Too Soon, and really take a hold of the story and make it my own. And it becomes super collaborative. So I really enjoy working the Marvel way if there's the time. It takes more time to do because you're putting out more storytelling energy than if someone has written the full script way. Oh, for editing artwork? Yes, I use Photoshop then. Yes. Can I do a live tutorial on how to get better at faces and bodies? Very possibly. Hopefully all the different headshot and figure work that I've done here on my YouTube channel, all of those videos are helping you currently. If you haven't had a chance to see those, go check them out, and hopefully you'll get some tips and tricks here right away. But in the future, more than likely I'll be doing more videos like that. Absolutely. Let's see, you can never draw skinny characters like Nightcrawler or Spider-Man. Most characters are super bulky. How can you improve on proportions, whether it be drawing underlines closer or whatever? Yeah, it's easy to draw characters super bulky because you think superhero, big muscles, and muscles get huge. But yeah, characters like Spidey and Nightcrawler need to be more lithe and thin. You know, Flash needs to be thinner than, say, like a Batman or Aquaman or Superman, because he's got more of a leaner runner's body build. So when you're breaking down the figure, just look at it. It's like, are the muscles too bulky? Are they too bulbous? Slim them down. Just start erase and make it thinner. Make it thinner. And when you're drawing through here, don't make it really wide. Don't really, they're not at the gym, cranking out big weights. You gotta slim it down. And for me, it was trial and error and studying real life. Looking at slender physiques, martial artists or, Olympic athletes that would have the appropriate dimensions of like a Spidey or a Nightcrawler. Everyone varies, but looking at real life and seeing how do their muscles, what kind of shape do they take in their movements? And then reflecting that in the art takes a lot of study. You got to really get in there and study and break it down. It's not always easy to do, but it can be beneficial once you start to crack the code. But it takes time and effort to start trying to crack that code. Hopefully that helps. How do you draw eyes with a glowing effect? Hopefully I've done a video like that here on my YouTube channel. Questions like this are good for while I'm actually drawing. Unfortunately, at this time, it's kind of hard to explain. It's easier to demonstrate. So hopefully you can see one of those videos. In fact, check out my cable Post-it note video. It's one of the most recent videos here on my video channel, and I have a glowing eye for cable. So hopefully that one will help. Check out Todd Nauck Draws Cable, the most recent one, the most recent video. What do you prefer to draw for your entire life? Wolverine comics or Batman comics? Great question. Two awesome characters. But as a longtime X-Men fan, I want to draw Wolverine comics because that means I'm bound to get to draw lots more X-Men because he's best buds with the X-Men. Nightcrawler, Rogue, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, all my favorite X-Men. I'm bound to cross over into a Wolverine comic. So, but really fun question. Very fun. Is Miles Morales' costume more difficult than Peter Parker's in terms of webbing? Yes, the difference between those two Spidey costumes, because Miles Morales has red lines on black, so that takes more time to translate. So absolutely, that can be very difficult. Pardon me, that can be more difficult, but still a very cool design. Any recommendations on drawing comic creation how-to books? Yeah, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. That is like almost every pro that I know that has a book like that has How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I still have mine from years ago when I got it as a kid. Good book, good book. How's Annette? Annette's good. She didn't show up for work, so I'm working without Annette, as always. Come back to Texas, Whataburger's on me. I'd love to come back to Texas, and I'd love to have more Whataburger. Let's see, you're working on a comic book with a buddy of yours. He's writing, you're illustrating. Any tips on possible formats in which you could share your comic? Pardon me. You can go print, you can go digital. I think those are the two most widely read formats. So that would be my suggestion to you. What do you want to draw? How do you want to reach your audience? Doing it digitally, you're not having to pay printing costs, which is great when you're starting out. And digital comics are becoming more and more popular. Webtoon, publish on Webtoon. And then when you start to develop a readership that wants that become big fans of your comic and want the physical copies, then you can go and do trade paperbacks, collected volumes of your book, like a yearly collected volume. And then you do pre-orders, and you know exactly how many you need to order, and then you got the money coming into paper printing, and it makes it a bit easier than just kind of taking the risk of printing on your own, hoping you sell them all, so you can pay for the next comic and things like that. So that's just one idea. So yeah, web comics, a lot less financial outlay, but you're kind of doing it for free for a while in hopes that you build up an audience that will then want to pay for the printed volumes. Because I found people that are fans of their digital comic want to have a collected volume for the bookshelves, which I think is great. So even if someone has read them all, we want to own them. We want to own the physical copy for our shelves. So, who's your favorite Thundercat, Lion-O? Would I switch to DC Comics permanently, or am I comfortable at Marvel? I love characters at both. I've worked with great people at both. If DC offered me an opportunity, I'd absolutely consider it. But, if Marvel offers me a gig, I'm definitely going to consider that. So it's all, as a freelance artist, you're always open to what other opportunities can come your way. I'm doing a project right now for someone completely outside of comics, and I can't wait to say what that is, but I can't say yet. But, you just get really cool opportunities, and it's really fun when those things happen. How would you set up your schedule if you're to do a weekly series? Well, it depends on how much content comes out in that weekly series. Is it one full page? Is it a panel every day? And then I would do at least a month or two of creating content that's already backlogged, so that when I start, I always have that buffer zone, because you don't want to miss a week or a day of putting your stuff out. Because once you start to put it out regularly and you develop a fan base, you don't want to leave them hanging. You don't want to go, I ran out of time. The next chapter won't be for another month, and then people are going to forget. So I personally would develop a backlog of material. Okay, I've got 8 weeks ready to go. Yes, that's the kind of person I am. I want at least 8 weeks ready to go. So as I continue moving forward in creating, I still have 2 months of work that's coming out on its regular schedule, but I'm always working in advance. So if something were to happen, health concerns, another project, I can take the time to do that, get back to work, and always stay ahead, because you always want to keep that material coming out so your fans that you develop can count on the latest chapter of their new favorite character. And they'll tell their friends, they'll come back and they'll binge all the chapters or pages they've missed to get caught up, and then they're going to want it every day or every week that they know that it's supposed to be there. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m., I get my latest page, or it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I get a new panel, so definitely something to consider. Now, other artists might, especially those that do webcomics regularly, would say, do this or do that. But if you read webtoons, most of those come out once a week. You get I don't know. It's an interesting format, and I want to learn more about that format, but you're going to get a new chapter each week. So you want to have that material there and ready to go, because people get disappointed if it's not there that week. And you want to keep your viewership as happy as possible. Who wins in a fight between Dr. Doom and Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers. What do I think of the strength of comics is versus other medium, especially now that CPU enhancement has become so strong? I'm not quite sure if I understand your question. I'm so sorry. How much sleep do you get in a night? Ideally, at least 7 hours, give or take. Cross-hatching or gray markers for shading? I'm a marker guy, but I also like cross-hatching, so it all depends on the illustration. Any cons in Cali in the near future? Yes, stay tuned to my website, toddnauck.com, and I'll be posting convention updates soon. Favorite Thunder dog? That would be K9O. Let's see. Please emphasize the importance of drawing the rough draft of the figure width and length correctly, then adding details later. If the first phase is done right, then it's simpler than the whole. Sure. Yeah. yeah, it can be very, very important. Absolutely. What do I think of DC Rebirth? I think it's cool. I read the 80-page giant and then it immediately fell way behind. But I'm currently picking up the Action comics, though I need to get Action number 993, the first chapter of the Superman Booster Gold team up. I have 994 and 995. My store is back ordering issue 993 because I missed it. I missed that week it came out. So I'm very excited to read this because I'm a huge Booster Gold fan. So that'll be some of the more recent DC Rebirth stuff I'll be reading. Do I ever learn from any Bob Ross painting techniques? Absolutely. I love watching Bob Ross. I used to watch Bob Ross when I was a kid. In 8th grade, summer of 8th grade, our PBS station aired Bob Ross paintings, 1 or 2 shows every day around lunchtime. And I made sure I was there at noon so I could watch Bob Ross. I'm 13 years old, watching Bob Ross, and just amazed by it. So yeah, and now Netflix has Bob Ross collections, and I'll tune into them, and it's just so much fun to watch. It's so cool to see his technique. So in a sense, yeah, I can learn things. How do I apply it to the work I do? Not always really doable, but it is interesting, and you never know what might translate. Happy trees, exactly. Let's see, we'll take 1 or 2 more questions, and I have to sign off. Do I have any advice for comic book artists looking for a job? I guess I would have advice. I'm trying to think of what that would be. Depends on where the comic book artist is at. Some people are young artists that want to draw cool shots of Spider-Man or Batman, and that's cool, but they're not studying their storytelling. If you're not doing storytelling, you're not ready to get a job in comics, because that's what a comic book is. So you got to make sure you're drawing sequential art, panel to panel, page to page artwork. If you're doing that, take stuff to Comic Cons and see if you can talk to editors. If you have a creator-owned idea, do a little mini comic that you can do one-off printing, like I think it's Blambot. Is it Blambot? Kablam one-off printing. You can print as many copies of your comic as you can afford, and then you can always go back and print more. So print out, if you can afford it, like a dozen copies to hand to an editor, because an editor can look at your comic and go, oh, yeah, this is cool. Your character's cool. More than likely, they're not going to steal it. Can't say that for sure, but there's a whole copyright stuff. I'm not a lawyer, so don't take any illegal advice from me. But it was my creator-owned comics that Rob Liefeld saw, he liked, and he hired me off of. And I still retain all the rights to Wild Guard and all the characters, and I have since done it as an Image comic. So, doing my creator-owned comic on the side while I'm doing my Marvel and DC submission samples, that's what actually got me my job, full-time in the comic book industry. So I say create comics because editors want to hire artists and writers who have a passion for creating comics. If you come in showing a comic book you've created, I was looking for see if I had a comic around here that I could show, like hold up and go, see here, this comic, there's a comic inside of here. This on this blank cover, there's a comic right there. You come in with your comic that you created cover to cover and show it to an editor, they'll say, wow, you got it done. So if I were to give you a Spider-Man story, you'd be able to get it done for me. So they want to see that people have that passion, because some people can, well, it took me like 4 months to draw these 3 pages. Why did it take you 4 months to draw 3 pages? Because you're going to need to do 3 pages in 3 days if you get hired professionally, roughly, depending on the deadline. So create, show an editor you can create. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out. I need to sign off. I hope y'all have an awesome time. It's so good to reconnect with y'all here. We're almost hitting a full hour. I'll be doing another broadcast, hopefully in the near future, and more than likely we'll tackle Storm. Next one in the foreground here. So next video, more than likely, unless things change, will be Storm added to this X-Men sketch cover. So gang, it's always great to see you. Be sure to follow me on all my other social media. I'm at Todd Nauck on Twitter. I'm at Todd Nauck on Instagram. I have a Tumblr page, Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page you can like. I'm posting on those places as well, and come and hang out with me on the other social media. It's always great to hang out with y'all. I hope y'all learned something today. Hope you had fun, and I hope to see you again real soon. Keep on drawing, keep having fun, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're a new-time viewer. It's always good to have new viewers come by and hang out. So, and long-time viewers, always appreciate y'all coming in and bringing up those running jokes that have seemed to become a staple here for many of my art broadcasts. It's always a good time. So wish you all the best, and I'll see y'all again real soon. Bye-bye.